13 minutes past 11. Welcome to the phone-in show on the BBC Asian Network with me, Nihal. My next guest has a backstory that's probably familiar to a lot of you. Grew up in the 80s and 90s, son of immigrants. Confused by his dual identity. He wasn't considered English in England or Pakistani in Pakistan. The B.A.D, as his MC name is also known as Kash Chaudhary, and he's a new artist. He uses his experiences growing up to inspire his new track, P.A.K.I, which stands for Pride, Attitude, Killer Instinct. We're going to be playing an edited version of the track because my man goes in real on the track. But even with an edited version of it, I will just give a little bit of a lyrical health warning beforehand just to make sure that you are aware. Because, of course, Pride, Attitude, Killer Instinct is an acronym. If you take the first letter of each words, of course, it makes up a word that, in the past, of course, many of us have been called, and usually in a hateful way, by a racist. I'm delighted to say that Kash joins me now. How are you, mate?
I'm good, man. How yourself?
Good, good. Tell us about this confusion that you had when you were growing up. This, am I British? Am I Pakistani? How did that feel?
I think that's a story. Like I said, the song is based on my experiences, but it's all our story in a sense. We all raised here with that dual identity in terms of, and things have got better now, no doubt, but that word was branded around a lot when we were younger. I remember it being used against my family, and I'm sure a lot of people...
So where did you grow up? What part of the UK?
I grew up in northwest London.
In northwest London?
In Willesden, yeah.
You see, okay, and that's my manor, right? That's where I live now.
Cricklewood, right?
Yeah, all them sides, exactly. Yeah. North Wheezy for Sheezy, North Wheezy for Sheezy. Now, but that area is a very multicultural area, isn't it? But I wasn't there in the 80s and 90s. I was in Essex, which was even more.
Yeah. We're moving around a lot as well as a family. But yeah, northwest London now is probably the most multicultural area in London. Yeah. But in terms of around Birmingham, and we come back from background as shop life. So in the shops especially, I experienced that word probably the most. You see, when you grip a shoplifter, the first thing they say to you is you F it, that word, right? I mean, I got experiences from... Like,
my apologies, you don't even abbreviate words like that. But yeah, I get what you're saying. Yeah, they use the P word.
My dad got called that, in the sense I got rushed.
So you saw that a lot then?
Yeah, personally, I got rushed once. I mean, I don't want to dwell on exactly my experience, but I did get rushed by skinheads in East Side as well. So in terms of... It's just that word, how it was used to demean, to make us... to belittle people, to make you feel like us and them, right? And I grew up with that. And then I spent some time, especially in Pakistan. And then it really hit me home that, hold on, because when we were here, we thought we were Pakistani, right? When I got there, I realised, hold on, we don't really either fit in here. So that's where the track in a lot came from, because it was exploring the history of that word, its usage. I mean, there's a lot of stuff going on in the song about themes about immigration, etc. I mean, a lot of stuff that you talk about on your show, and I wanted to bring that all back. And as well as, like Russell Peters says at the start of the song, if you see the video, he talks about bringing the world back, taking it back in terms of giving it some positive...
as the African-American community have tried to do, yes.
With the African community, where the gay community have even taken it. So give it some positive, so when kids turn around and say, yeah, I got pride, attitude and killer instinct. On a personal note, that's even just gives me great joy just seeing my little nephews and cousins. I've seen all their statuses is pride, attitude, killer instinct. That's just a note of pride. So turn something around, flip it on its head, and be proud of your background as well. Even
when was the last time, I suppose, that you would have experienced that kind of racism? I mean, has it pretty much stopped? I mean, you're quite a hench geezer, so I doubt many people would want to try that with you now.
Like I said, the last time would have definitely been in the shop last year or so, because I've slowly, as I've concentrating on my media stuff, I've taken a back seat from that. But there it was almost a regular thing.
So even in the last few years, Nihal, you would have heard it on a regular?
Yeah, Nihal.
No one's ever called me, called that word for years.
I know, but anybody who's there from like Shop Live, which is...
a lot of people listening who know about Shop
will realise that you get into those confrontations daily more than you would as... and so I've always noticed, it's really interesting, when they can't physically hurt you, they will stand at the doorway and shout that word and run off, and it's just like, it's there.
So how does the P-bomb work for you now? Like, if someone drops the P-bomb on you, how do you react to that?
Well, I'm a man now. I mean, I try and... There's emotions that do flare up. I try and handle...
Seriously?
Obviously, yeah. It depends definitely your emotions flare up and you could get angry, especially when it's abusive. I try and breathe in deeply and handle it like a man and, just laugh at them because of their ignorance and that they could, imagine their mindset.
Oh, do you know what? I don't know even if I would laugh now.
And
just because I would just go, right, that's so old school. Like, why are you saying that to me?
And me and you, we're from here, northwest London. But situation, damn right, it's getting a lot better. But in terms of when you go out of London, it's still there, you know what I mean?
Yeah, I suppose so. I suppose so. It's also, of course, how you carry yourself as well. Do you feel nervous around white people? If you go to areas which are predominantly white, do you feel nervous?
I don't really feel nervous. Like I said, I've got that pride, attitude and killer instinct, what I'm talking about. But, and like I said...
but you didn't always have that, did you?
No, I didn't, of course.
Yeah.
But you feel that, like I've always had a way of like just looking at things a little bit deeper. So there's always this, going back to it seems like human nature, that tribalism, that us and them. There's always that little bit of their friction, and you can sense the nervousness in someone when you walk up towards how they react to someone else. So that's always there. We read situations. Again, it's not isolated. I'm sure you've got experiences. Everyone listening on the show's got experiences with that. But this track was a summary of what I wanted to bring in, all the criticisms that are leveled at us. If you listen to the lyrics, as each lyric and the video, it tries to address every thing that I could think of. And very poignant in the video is like it starts off with all the racist terms and that, and then towards the end we smash the TV. That was supposed to imply, smashing the stereotypes so the future generation can move forward without that, because that's an interesting story, because I got a son as well, and my mate was saying to me the other day, he goes, your dad's a Pakistani and your son's English, but you, my friend, are stuck in the middle in a sense, because we were born with that cross-identity, right? That cross-cultural thing.
Yeah, of course. That's right, because we have a direct link to Sri Lanka, Pakistan, Bangladesh, India through our parents, right? So our folks speak with an accent, whereas your son, he looks at daddy, and daddy's pretty much British, right?
I say to him, I speak to him in our language. He'd be like, Dad, why are you talking that crazy language?
Does he say that?
Yeah, he's just a funny kid, but he comes out.
That's amazing. How old is your son?
He's 4.
Right, okay, it's the same age as my daughter. It's 11:20. Let's hear the track now. Now, this is a super clean edit of the track. But still, I'm going to give you a little bit of a health warning because, of course, as you know, it has the P word in it. So if you are offended by that word, you have 2 minutes and 15 seconds or so, just, 3 minutes to be safe, to go off and make a cup of tea or, I don't know, just go and hang out somewhere or go and watch a Indian soap or something for 3 minutes before you want to pull your eyes out because you've been watching it. Anyway, here it is. This is P.A.K.I. by the B.A.D. here on the BBC Asia Network. And please, once you listen to it, I'm probably going to play another track straight off the back of it, just to give you a chance to react to us here on what you think of the track lyrically. So listen to the vocals. So you're going to have about 5 or 6 minutes, but I do want you to listen to the track in its entirety, 2 minutes and 13 seconds of it. Then we'll play another non-related track afterwards. 81869 is the text number. Email Nihal at bbc.co.uk or tweet us at BBC Asian Network.
I don't know if I'm a British Asian. All I know is I'm a sensation, steadily increasing the population. Ain't no ceasing my verbal copulation. I'm the seed of a new generation. To those in need, I bring salvation. I'm an inspiration, accept no imitation. I got no limitation, I'm a manifestation of your worst nightmare. With attitude, finger in the air. A broken promise and a dream brought us here. No rivers of blood, bites and streams of tears. Why don't you go back to where you come from? Since I was a kid, you've been singing that same song. Harassing my pops, disrespecting my mom. Well, I'm all grown now, so we can get it on. P-A-K-I, I don't need no alibi. I'm staying P-A-K-I till the day I die. P-A-K-I, I don't need no alibi. I'm staying P-A-K-I till the day I die. It's that boy from Pakistan. You can't see me like I was, like you'd even give a you had a tan. Ain't nobody spit the truth like I can. I can read through the lines, so cut your. It's time to stop bashing back. I put the black in the Union Jack. Give me 2 shots of Jack and watch me bounce right back. ain't nobody do this how I do. If I was you, I would hate me too, cause I'm young, brown and handsome. Stacking paper like my name is Richard Branson. Scary like your grandson, sick in the head like Charles Manson. I'm bringing down the house like Samson. Terrorists holding the whole world to ransom. P-A-K-I, I don't need no alibi. I'm saying P-A-K-I till the day I die. P-A-K-I, I don't need no alibi. I'm saying P-A-K-I till the day I die.
So what do you think of it? 81869 is the text number. That's P-A-K-I. You can also email us, nihal@bbc.co.uk. What do you think of the lyrics? Those that weren't cut out, of course. Just get in contact with us. Tell us, is it an important concept? Can you re-own the word P-A-K-I? Or is it forever going to be associated with racism? That was DJ Harvey, Seni Surrender with Anpar Desi. And before that, of course, it was a track P-A-K-I by the B.A.D, whose real name is Kash Chaudhary and is sitting right in front of me. Kash, what kind of feedback have you had on the track?
It's been like Marmite. People either love it or hate it. So the people who love it, they're like, yo, I'm glad you told that story. I'm glad you brought some firepower to that, something it bothered a lot of people, I guess, so they were glad I brought that story. And the negative stuff I can't say on this daytime show, but there's been a lot of, let's say, hate mail as well, so...
well, I mean, obviously leaving out the swear words, is the criticism, any of it been constructive, or has it just been haters?
Oh, it's generally constructive in terms of, I don't think there's been a lot of hate mail, like racist words and stuff. So
for real?
Yeah.
Oh, from non-Asians?
But I've realised, yeah...
How ironic. You do a track about racism and you get loads of racist hate mail about it.
I mean, I'm new in the game in a sense, so like I'm trying to see, you have to detach yourself from, YouTube comments, Facebook posts to a certain extent, otherwise you get caught up in that game, right? So
it's tough. It is tough.
When it first comes in and you're like, get emotional, and now I'm like, look, just let them say what they got to say.
Well, once you put it out there, look, opinions are like backsides. We all have one. So you just have to kind of deal with it.
No, I'm a firm believer in you put something in the public domain, then it's the public's right to judge it. And I take criticism like a man. It's just some people
They go too far.
Too far, and then I feel like saying have a coke and a smile, and you know what I
mean? Yeah. Otherwise you might see a bloke go wild. Now, Nihal, the word, the P word, actually means pure in Urdu, as in Pakistan or Pakiza. So there is actually a beautiful word. So it's really weird, isn't it, that if someone was calling that in a racist sense, you go, oh, thank you, just call me pure.
Of course, and in Pakistan means land of the pure, and obviously I'm aware of that, what Pak means. I'm saying how the word has been used in the context, especially in England, in Britain. I've heard in parts of Canada and Europe as well. It was used with venom. It became a racial slur. I'm not talking about the pure meaning. Or in the US, they get confused saying it's short form of Pakistan. I mean, that's why I put Russell Peters in the video as well, because it was applied, like Nihal said earlier, to all brown people, regardless. It's got nothing to do with Pakistan or India, Sri Lanka. It was applied to anyone who was brown. And I make a point to say to my Indian friends, I go, look, when this stuff was going on, the P-bashing, etc., people didn't stop a man and say, excuse me, are you from the Indian side of the Punjab or the Pakistani side, before they kicked his head in, you know what I'm saying?
No, real talk. Because, of course, that did once happen to me, though, by skinheads. Yeah. They actually came up to me and asked me if I was Pakistani. Are you a P word, they said. And then I said, no, I'm from Sri Lanka. And they went, oh. They kind of looked at each other and went,
you probably confused
them. And then
walked.
I did.
They haven't heard
They looked at each other and went. It was almost as if it was like that kind of scene in Star Wars when he goes, "These aren't the droids you're looking for." They went, "These aren't the droids we're looking for." It was almost like, well, he's not the bloke to kick in that we're looking for. We need to go and find someone who actually is Pakistani. So in terms of racism, they were diligent. They were really looking for the right person to kick in.
But in their mind, so you're saying it would have been right to kick some random innocent guy just because he happens to have ethnicity from Pakistan. You know what I'm saying?
Yeah, no, true.
That's what becomes it. You know, this media get lost.
They were just dumb. But then racism is dumb, full stop, isn't it? So. You know, it is just dumb. This one is coming from Imran Latif from London. He said, totally agree with most of the points Kash has made. Need more artists like this to express the situation, because most Asians that are Indian, Pakistani, Bengali, Sri Lankan have been called this word sometime in their lives. Respect, love the track, rather would have heard the full version. Well, I wish we could. but we'd have to put so many warnings on it, and then after 10 o'clock at night. Maybe Yasser at some point might play the full version. Who knows? You'd have to listen into his show on a Friday night to find out. Love the concept. Not so sure about the delivery. We have the phrase bracky. You ever heard that? British Pakistani? That's from Saab at work.
No, I never heard that one.
Bracky.
No.
Bracky.
Bracky.
You know?
Could do that. Maybe something sounds like something to do with Bradford as
Yeah,
well.
maybe. That's true. Yeah, Pakistani from Bradford could be a bracky. Zed in London has said, Paki, I have to take my hat off to this dude. I love his message. Someone needed to speak up. Long overdue. Not everybody would like it, but you have to admire B.A.D's courage to do something different as an Asian artist and raise a taboo subject. That's from the Nasty N, who's in North Wheezy.
Yeah.
Must be one of your boys.
Shout out to my boys, yeah.
Nasty N, who's listening in on the BBC Asian Network. OK, let's take another break and then we'll come back and speak to Kash a little bit more about this track. Tell me, you listening to BBC Asian Network right now, when was the last time you were called that word? I'd be interested to know. But just tell me. I mean, obviously, I'm not asking you to give me a date. I'm asking you, oh, yeah, March the 5th. I put it in my diary. I put it in my phone. But I'd just like to know if in recent times you have been called that word, or whether it is a word that belongs in the 80s and the 90s. I mean, Kash is pointing out that this has happened fairly recently to you, but that's because you're in the shop business. And in shops, you do get all kinds of, we say...
It's the last resort when they want to hurt you. See, they can't physically hurt you, like you said. And it's still there, as in when they're about to run off out the door.
I suppose it depends on the clientele.
Yeah.
the quality of some people that come into...
You know it well.
No, but listen, I once, for a Channel 4 documentary, I did a night shift in a 24-hour convenience store.
Right. So you know all about the grimy shop life, yeah?
Grimy, these Kashmiri brothers that live near us.
That's where I'm from back home as well. Man.
Right, okay, these Kashmiri brothers that run this shop, and they let me film in it behind the counter, working there with secret cameras, and it was quite an eye-opener.
Imagine that 24/7. So.
Yeah, 7 days, yeah, right. 33 minutes past 11, you're listening to Nihal on the BBC Asian Network. 37 minutes past 11, hello, welcome to the BBC Asian Network. I'm joined by Kash Chaudhary, a.k.a. the B.A.D, talk about his track P.A.K.I, which is an acronym for Pride, Attitude, Killer, Instinct. Hi, Nihal, I own a shop and I had a customer who I banned shout and call me the P word, and an English customer found it so offensive they reported it to the police. The guy later was in court for it and is now banned from walking past the shop. See, how interesting is that?
Yeah, that is interesting.
That a white person was the one that got more offended by it.
The white person got more offended because in terms of me, I wouldn't have, like I said, reported to police because it'd be ducks over water's back, you know what I mean? You get so used to it, I guess it's conditioned. So, yeah, that's good though, that the tide is changing, like I said, it's improving. But there's always subtle hints of it, like I was just discussing with you in the media, other things like going on at the moment. You get subtle hints, even with the halal conversation going on. The Britain's first right now, they're over in Bradford, I heard, invading mosques. So there's always something going on. It's got racial undertones, if not direct that word. That's why I wanted to discuss in the song. That word is not the...
But what about the opposite racism, though?
The opposite racism, you mean from Asians towards white people?
And towards black people, because I was talking to someone recently, Kash, who was saying to me, he lives in Brick Lane, and he was walking through Brick Lane. He's white.
Yeah.
He actually, in the 90s, stood with Bengalis fighting skinheads. He's a white fella. And then recently he was walking through, and this is recently, he was walking through Brick Lane, around those areas in Aldgate in East London, and a group of Asian lads came up to him and started verbally abusing the woman that he was with, calling her all kinds of things, saying that it was a Muslim area and she shouldn't be wearing a short skirt in that area, and being incredibly abusive. And he was so upset because he had fought. He said to me, look, I fought with the dads of probably those kids against skinheads, and now look what Asian people are doing streets. I mean, how do you feel about that?
I totally agree with you. That's totally out of order. But exactly what I'm discussing in my song is how that situation unfolded. Obviously, I've got links all around the UK, in Luton, in Birmingham, and those are slightly more ghetto Asian areas, if you know what I mean.
Of course.
By ghetto, I don't mean as an insult. I mean ghetto is where there's a large concentration of certain race, like just as Brick Lane is for Bengalis, right? What I'm getting at with the song is it builds up to the point where the earlier generation, who were say, the minority, they were constantly picked on. They felt like outsiders, and now they're developing a foothold where they're getting the numbers, the power, and it's sort of that coming home to roost, if you know what I mean, and they're trying to take their anger out now, and they feel alienated from a culture. I mean, it's very deep if you want to go into it.
Yeah, I do,
and they're sort of giving that back now with this song. If you see the third verse of the video, when I'm building up to the whole point of where the guy throws the bottle and then I'm standing on the roof, because that constant hatred can lead you to two conclusions, in my opinion. Two, feeling down, depressed, and when I'm about to jump off the building, or when the guy from the Bradford riots is throwing the bottle, because it unleashes that rage. And these kids, they do need better education, because not everyone, you can't go on and take your anger out on everyone. There were many great white people who stood with us against anti-racism stuff, from the stuff to Southall to when I remember...
If you see all the Love Music Hate Racism people, I used to go to Love Music Hate Racism gigs, DJ at them. I didn't actually see that many Asian people at those shows. I used to see a lot of white people and a lot of black people.
Yeah, I went to march against the Iraq War. There was more white people there than Asians, definitely. So that's just ignorance taking out any white person you see in the area. But I'm talking about, I do understand the mentality of that ghettoization, that rage is reflected on anyone they see, they take it on the street. It's that territorial thing where they, I guess, the younger generation is coming back raw and saying these are our areas, and I'm not saying it's a good thing either, but I'm just saying I can understand how it's built up, and it's something that, like I said, it does need to be addressed in terms of realising that that is not the way forward, in terms of, how would I say that? I would say
we all need to kind of understand each other,
don't become like them. Learn to be the bitter man, the people who did offend you and do racist things towards you, but you got to learn to move on and be the bigger man in that sense.
So when you saw your dad go through all of this at the hands, I presume, predominantly of white people, did it, and please be honest with me here, did it pollute your attitude towards white people? Did you grow up thinking all white people were racist?
No, I think, first of all, my dad was a soldier. Like, he kept his mind on his money, businessman, in the sense that, the word did come up, but he wouldn't be one of those guys who'd sit down and let it defeat him. But obviously, from a young age, it did create that thing in your mind, us and them, right?
Right.
In a way, like I said, I got links in Luton and Birmingham, so I understand that family links as well. We moved out from there as a family, so I understood that in London it helped me develop, because I would be sitting in school and I'd see a guy, a black guy, a white guy, an Indian guy, and I'd realise, hold on, everyone's here, we're all different, but we're all together. Imagine if I wasn't, imagine I was in an area with 100% Pakistanis, right, and it grows up, and that's the whole thing I'm talking about with that. And those brothers...
Does that mean you've got an issue with those kind of areas? Like, you feel that people should make more of an effort to... move to different areas?
It's a very deep issue. I mean, should they make an effort? How it developed is the ghettoization. This is something that happens. As I travelled, I realised more. It goes on in every country in the world. The people are ghettoized, they're stigmatised. It's like the first time I went to France, I realised, hold on.
France is terrible.
They're the Algerian and the Arab community are seen as ghettoized.
Yeah.
And it really hit home, Nihal. When I went to Pakistan, the ghettoization was of the Christian boys, right? And if I tell someone there's Christian gangs there, like with the tattoos and they're all hardcore, and people be like, are you stupid? But any group from that I realised any group that is marginalised is looked down upon.
So was this in Kashmir?
No, this is in Pakistan. More, there's not.
What part of Pakistan were you in?
Islamabad. And
you saw Christian gangs?
Oh, they have gangs, and they have little ghettos again where they're segregated and they're treated badly, and now they're resulting when they grow up into that life. So it's not just certain people have that racially; it's how people are inclined, and that was very important. The last finishing line of the song, I put up that quote, "We become what we behold," because I wanted to stress that point. How we are treated, how society treats us reflects upon us, and we become more like that. I mean, people always put the finger on the Asians, you don't integrate, you don't... but certain responsibility has to be taken by the hosts because of how they treated our parents and us when we were growing up. I've met a lot of Asians from Canada and South Africa. They always say, I'm Canadian and I'm South African. In the sports, they support Canada, support South African, because that always shows me they must have been made to feel at home. They say, I'm Canadian, bro, I'm South African. When the cricket team goes to, Indian cricket team goes to South Africa or Canada, the local Asians support their local team. Whereas in England, you know, the famous cricket test, was it Lord Tebbit who said these Asians will never be British until they support the English team. To this day, India or Pakistan, Bangladesh or Sri Lanka play. I support Pakistan.
I support Sri Lanka,
I support Sri Lanka, the others in India and Bangladesh. We never, hardly ever support
But I love
England.
this country, yeah.
Yeah, but much love to... There are players coming in like, Ravi Bopara, Monty Panesar, Saj Mahmood. Hopefully, maybe it'll change with time.
Maybe.
But I think that's a very important psychological point because why is it different in Canada, South Africa?
But you'll
England?
want your kid, won't you? You'll want your 4-year-old to support Pakistan, won't you, in the cricket?
No, I've taken a back seat from watching cricket in a certain sense, but yeah, I won't put pressure on him like that.
Oh, really?
My philosophy with him is like, people like you doing this rap game, you swear. I go, look, man, my job is to teach him how to think, not what to think. So I really gotta, hopefully teach him what to think.
My
be a
job
strong,
is to teach him how to think, not what to think.
Yeah, he can be his
Wisdom
own man,
right
make
there.
his own mind, yeah.
Wisdom right there. Gina in Derby said, I went to a local supermarket in Birmingham with my mum yesterday. After a disagreement about him pushing in, he was Greek. He said, go away, you Pakistani. Well, he didn't say that, but I think we can all understand what he did say.
It's the last resort to hurt you, that's what I said, yeah.
My mum was in shock, so I replied saying we were British Indians and proud. He walked out the shop and the customers in the shop clapped and praised me for sticking up for myself. The manager has now banned him from coming into the store.
That's very
from Gina
filmy
in
there.
Derby. Wow,
Very filmy, innit?
That's deep. I'm
Yeah,
really,
respect to you,
I'm
Gina,
really
was it?
interested. Yeah, respect to Gina, and I hope your mum's okay. I'm intrigued by these stories because I think perhaps living in multicultural London, perhaps you just don't come across it so much unless you work in a shop. I mean, I have to honestly say I can't remember the last time someone would have called me, dropped the P-bomb into my life. I just can't remember the last time that happened.
I mean, I don't know you that well, but I just assume you're around media circles and that where people are generally a bit better educated
I'm in clubs
and
and
stuff.
stuff, and I'm I'm not a road man, but I'm on road. Like I'm walking around. I'm not just staying around. I'm around a lot. I bounce around a lot. But I suppose I don't go to.
So it's more subtle there. I mean, like there's other things going on, of course. I mean, with the club life, like you mentioned, you're in the clubs and stuff. But I've got boys who are bouncers and that. There's always a limit on how many Asians or certain groups are coming in. And there's other things going on. There's a certain amount of this colour that's got to be there. So we all know behind the scenes, you're in the club life more than me. So.
Yeah, it's an interesting one.
There's other issues to that I'll agree because of trouble and stuff like that. I know a lot more. I know there's other things that go on. So
yeah, there is absolutely. Well, look, 81869 on the text. I'd love to know from you listening. It's really nice of Gina to get in contact with us. I'd like to know, when was the last time you were called the P word or racially abused in any way? How common is it in the UK? I don't want to get this feeling that I live in a bubble, because I don't. I live in northwest London. I bop around those areas all the time.
I mean, northwest London, we're in Brent right now, yeah, me and you.
Yeah.
So Brent is like, from what I've read,
super multicultural,
the most ethnically diverse place on the planet.
In London.
It's hard to find Englishmen there right now.
Well,
nowadays.
real talk.
Yeah.
In parts of it, definitely. I was filming in Wembley last week.
So maybe we are a bit sheltered from that in that sense.
But in saying that, recently for the bank holiday, me, my mum, my wife, my 2 kids, my brother, my sister-in-law, nephew, we went to East Sussex. Like, there were no brown people there. We walked into pubs, we had lunches there. No one batted an eyelid. Everyone was so friendly. No one said anything to us at all.
There are things improving.
Of course, I had my stuffy dog with me, so that might have made some, maybe just too scared to say something. But look, we'll come back and speak to you in a little bit, Kash. Neha in York has just got in contact with us. We'll speak to Neha after this. 33 minutes past, 33, I went to seconds then. Jeez, how specific can you be? Sorry, it's 52 minutes past 11. Yeah, I know we like to be specific here at the BBC, but I don't necessarily have to give you the seconds. Neha is in York and got in contact with us. Hello, Neha.
Hi, Nihal.
How are you?
I'm all right, thanks. How are you?
Good. Now, tell me, what would you like to say about Kash and his music?
So there's 2 things, because you're asking about when was the last time you experienced racism as well.
Yeah.
I don't know if it's racism, but I moved to York last year, and it's a predominantly white area.
Yeah.
And I work with children, and I always use the line, "My name's Neha, will you remember my name?" And one child turned around to me and said, "No, but can I call you Mohammed?"
Okay. How old was the child?
He was about 11.
Okay, so kind of old enough to know better, but...
Yeah.
But what, just thought that every brown person's called Mohammed?
Yeah, but I'm a girl.
If that's not racism, I don't know what it is. But like I said...
Well, is it? I mean, I don't know. Is it? I mean, because racism is about intention, isn't it?
Yeah, it's about intention.
So what was the intention, do you think, Neha, in what he said?
I don't really know, but it does make me think what is being said at home.
Yes. So every Asian's called Mohammed. Although, to be fair, Mohammed is the most common name, apparently, isn't it?
Yeah.
And so maybe statistically he just looked at the census or something as an 11-year-old and worked it out.
Really, really clever.
Yeah,
Really
maybe.
clever.
Although not that clever, because clearly he would know that Mohammed isn't a girl's name.
Yeah.
Yeah, that's okay. That's interesting. All right. Okay. So that's
I'm from a shop background as well, and we've had it all. Like originally I'm from Newcastle, and I've had to defend like my mum before when somebody's come in and said, "Oh, you should go back to where you're from." Then I have no problem defending anyone. I'll always stand up for the person who's right.
And you go back to where exactly do you mean? Like, shall I go back to my hospital? Shall I go back to London? You want me to go back to Brent? Go back home? Exactly.
But I have to say, like, I switched on the radio and I heard Kash was on, and I listened to the song and listened to what you were saying, and it was like somebody who thinks exactly the same as what I think. Like, I've been doing a little bit of a documentary about just being born here, but being from like an Indian background. So I'm not quite Indian. When I go to India, nobody looks at me and goes, "Oh yeah, you're Indian." But living here, nobody would look at me and go, "You're English."
Exactly. That's what I wanted to say. It was like our story. I didn't want to. It's about all issues. I think all Asians can identify with stuff in the song as well. And like I said, it's got nothing to do with. It's that split identity, like what you're talking about, Nihal,
like
isn't it?
Race. Yeah, it's like being mixed race, but without being mixed race.
Exactly.
So it's really weird because my English friends, they say to me, "Why do you always say that you're Indian? You have a British passport. You should say that you're English." And I was like, "Yeah, but I'm not English."
Yeah, the only time I get called English is when I'm not in England. That's a funny one,
Yeah. So, I just wanted to say that it was nice and refreshing to hear somebody actually talking about something that's actually relevant to our generation.
Yeah, no, it's fascinating that you think it is still so relevant, because I suppose because I'm older than you guys, and it was specifically relevant to us because we had skinheads. Like, you guys don't have skinheads. Like, anyone who's in their 20s has probably never seen a skinhead.
The pea bashing and stuff.
Yeah, they've never seen that.
But it doesn't really have to be
they've just grown their hair now,
with combat 18s rushing people. There's a lot of subtler things going on, especially in the media, generally leading hatred towards.
Racism's become more acceptable nowadays.
Do you think it's become more acceptable or become more underground, or the racists have figured out a new language? Yeah.
I think it's kind of become more acceptable in one way because, you know, even between friends, you might say things, and yes, it's in jest, but there's always that it's there. And if you can say it between your social groups, then it's more accepting for people to do it on a wider scale, if you get what I mean.
Okay, Nihal, thank you very much indeed for that. Z has said, "I'm loving this guy right now. He's saying all the things the vast majority think. The spotlight needs to be shining on us too. How much of this is our own fault? I'm like you, Nihal. In my bubble, everything's rosy. Thankfully, the fireworks through the letterbox, the excrement placed on the doorstep, and the rampant use of the P-term that my husband grew up, I did not experience in the slightest. Perhaps my outward friendly nature, I talk to everyone, really don't care for labels, means I'm more approachable. I don't know. Just that it's very upsetting thinking some people are still racially abused." Sorry, I typed this in a rush at work, says this email. See, this is the power of the BBC Asian Network phone show. You know, people are supposed to be working.
And the track.
Yeah, and the track, of course, they've got people talking about it. Look how long this email is, man. So here's an incident that happened approximately a year ago. I was walking home from the tube station in North London. There were these two girls completely drunk banging on the door of an Asian restaurant, which was closed as it was about midnight, and the waiters signalled to them that the restaurant was shut. And he was pushing the door from the inside to keep it closed. So one of the girls shouting, "What's wrong with you lot? We just want a taxi." Hearing this, I thought I would help. Stupid mistake. I said to them, "If you need a taxi, I've loads of taxi numbers saved. I can give one a call for you." One of them turns around and says, "Why did you say that?" "Because the waiter heard me tell them that." Charges towards me to attack me and says something along the lines of, "Go back to where you came from, you..." Used the P word. She tried to grab onto me and hit me. Luckily, I know how to defend myself, and she was drunk enough that I essentially flung her to the ground. I didn't realise until later she'd made a huge scratch mark across my skin. So her friend then comes towards me because her friend cannot get up, and by this point I'm angry. So I just turned around and said, "If you come any closer, I will break your face. Go and look after your friend." She stops in her track and goes on to say, "You're all the same. I don't know what you're doing in this country." People like that just confuse me. Stupidity and racism does exist. Sid in Stourbridge said, "I got some drunk guys arrested who were stripping totally on a train making a nuisance. One of them called me the P word, but I didn't care about that. I was more concerned about what they were doing at 7 p.m. They were cautioned. Lastly, Uzma said, I'm a 70s child who grew up with all the racist slurs, such as the P word in the 80s. Although this continued after my family moved to Scotland in the 90s, I found this has decreased over time. I now have children of my own and had the shocking experience of them being called this word at a play centre recently. Having taken my kids to play centres for a number of years, this was the first time my kids were subjected to racist slurs in that environment. It's something else when your children have to go through what you went through as a child, especially when I was under the impression things had improved greatly since our time. I do still hope this was an isolated experience and not a sign that things are going to get worse. Kash, we've run out of time. Quickly, online, where can people find out more about you? And the track, PAKI, is out now. Where can people find
Yeah,
you?
they can catch me on the usual suspects, Facebook and Twitter, and they just YouTube Badistani. My channel will come up. Check out the full video uncensored there. And keep it pride, attitude and killer instinct.
Asian Britain. On digital TV, online and on your mobile. This is BBC Asian Network.
Wow. There you go. Pride, attitude and a killer instinct. The track is out now. Go and search it and download it legally and support music if you like what he had to say. And I warn you, of course, we played a radio edit of it. The unedited version is lively. Trust me on that. Well, that was that hour.